from the mouth of the board. This is a great opportunity for you to continue to learn more about who the board is, what we do, and how our work strengthens the organization over time. It also is an opportunity for you all out there in the ether to get reconnected with the leadership structure of the organization and find your way to giving back and being part of the organization on an ongoing basis. So today we have Jonathan Merino, who is the recently elected undergraduate representative. We have Alejandra Leja. She was with us last time too. She is our newly elected vice chair at the board. And then you have me, Francesca. I am a board director and I'm working on this communication strategy, helping get the message out about our organization. So with that, today's topic is going to be all about committees and why do committees matter? Right now, the next few sessions are going to be focused on more of kind of the theory behind high performing boards. Then we're going to get into some of the bylaw changes that we're proposing and how they tie to some of these really great practices and lessons learned from the nonprofit industry. So with that, we're going to start with explaining how committees allow the board to accomplish more than it could on its own. Anybody want to get started on that?
I can kind of talk about it. So with committees, we have a variety of different committees that are on the board. For example, we have the executive committee, we have the governance committee, finance, and then audit. And within those committees, we also have subcommittees where they're more like focused on specific areas. So for example, governance, I was in that committee. Another subcommittee from there was elections. And so I was in charge, along with a couple other people in that subcommittee, of navigating with a staff member the elections. And the point of committees is to allow kind of accountability and assigning tasks to different people, so that it's not lying all and we're having to figuring it all in one like sitting. Like, you know, when we do meet as a board, we do have an agenda. It's a lot of stuff to cover, but we can't go into the details of everything. So being able to have someone who is, in a sense, like specializing or focusing in that area, that allows more productivity within the board.
Nice. Something I could compare it to is, so I'm in software, and so for people in our audience that are familiar with project management or even agile project management, you have your backlog refinements and then you have your work that's in development. And what that means is some work is fully known and you can make decisions on. If you want your board to be high performing, you want your board meetings to be about making decisions and setting policy and, you know, overseeing. Sometimes what you need to do is research though before you can make a decision. And so committees also help in that way by doing research and bringing forth the information the board needs to make an informed decision. So that's something I have really enjoyed about how we're using committees right now, and how we're continuing to grow that area, because you can have a committee that is composed of board members, but those committees have subcommittees. And in the subcommittees, we have opportunities for engaging membership at large. And it's a way to bring in like specialty knowledge, like you were saying, Alejandra. You know, maybe someone knows a lot about mergers and acquisitions, or maybe someone knows a lot about information systems and we're going through digital transformation. So all of that happens in the committees and subcommittees. Jonathan, how are students using committees?
Yeah, so very similar to what you already talked about already, committees really do help out with getting a lot more done on a more broader scale. I've been a part of committees from the UC Merced student chapter. One of the biggest ones that we do have is the National Convention Committee, actually, because obviously the executive board, they have a lot of things in their hands already. So we really do try to have a committee specialized just for the committee or the convention. And so that'll involve getting the funding needed to support students with their hotels, their travel, their registrations as well. It'll also cover more about how to actually prepare for the conference. They'll have different workshops. They can be resume workshops, they can be a networking 101 workshop, or even mock interviews. And that's just one of the ways that committees have been very effective for us. It's one of the biggest things that we have for the whole entire year. And so just to be able to show that there's a lot of different perspectives from not only students who are on the board, but also upperclassmen students who have been to maybe 2 national conferences before, who have gotten so-and-so interview opportunities and whatnot. It's just really good to get a lot of different perspectives, whether on the board or not, and just ensure that everyone's working to their strengths to get a common goal.
So let me tell you what I like about what you just said. I mean, many things I like about it, but I'm thinking of how a chapter becomes a microcosm of what's happened nationally. Because that person who is part of the local chapter, conference prep committee can then continue to grow in that area and become part of the national conference planning committee. And they bring that insight, as to how people are participating at the local level, and then they can bring that and communicate it to the national committee, make improvements, help make it better. And so that's, there's the connection, that pipeline and leadership that I think is so important, that we do in SHIP through our committee work. So when I think of some of the reasons why committees are so important, that's one of them, right? It's that pipeline. But it's also how we improve the transparency of information and the continuity of that leadership throughout the organization. Can you guys think of ways that committees might make our work more transparent?
For me, I'm like thinking more of getting others involved. So that's kind of like the nice thing about committees and subcommittees. You don't have to necessarily be on any board necessarily, or you don't have to have like a elected role necessarily, where it is involvement from our members, and you're able to have these conversations and get input from others, and in a sense, integrate that into the decision making. We're always open to feedback. We always want feedback. At the end of the day, the things that we're doing are for our members. So, getting their input is going to help us, create, whether it's a successful event, successful program. So at least for my experience in terms of, like, for example, the elections subcommittee, where we're constantly thinking of what happened last year, and like taking that feedback and taking it into how can we make it different this year to implement those feedbacks.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I think too of accountability and transparency going hand in hand. When it's only a small group of people making all the decisions and doing all the work, it's easy for the membership at large to feel like they're in the dark, or like, we don't know where the sausage is made. We don't know how it's made. Whereas committees and subcommittees allow more people in, to the secret club. And, the word gets out better. More people are informed. It's more transparent by the nature of inviting more people in. So that's something I really appreciate about it. Any other thoughts on how committees make our board and our staff, staff in particular, we haven't talked about that. How do you think the committees are helping our staff? It'd be great to bring them in to say.
I think for,
Maybe we'll
like,
invite some
again,
staff soon.
I keep going like back to my experience on like the subcommittee for elections, but again, like I'm kind of in a sense being the voice of the members to staff. But at the same time, the staff, they are in a sense like the subject matter experts. They know how the things are necessarily processed. Like they know the integrations of the platforms for elections. They have all that experience. So we're working together to, we're conquering one thing. We're all in the same mission, the same goal. If anything, it's nice to have in a committee because yes, you're like a volunteer, doing this, but also they're dedicated to this. This is, you know, in the sense their job title, like they're passionate about it as well. So I think it does definitely expand like productivity, having like a designated staff member who is like the expert. So like if you do have like a specific questions, I always like recommend people like look at our website so you can see who our staff members are and like what their titles and their roles are within the organization, because they are focused, like whether it's membership or finances or professionals, like they all have kind of a sense of goal of how they're bettering the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. Jonathan, have you seen students working with staff, perhaps at national convention or in other contexts? And what would you say that experience is like?
Yeah, honestly, I think the most important thing is that the communication. I know when I worked in the committee for the national convention, we were always talking about the bulk registrations, for example. We wanted to ensure that we got all the different codes needed to be able to get into the actual registrations for all the participants that were going to get funding. I think that
Mm-hmm.
it's very important because we're students, right? We're always navigating. We're still figuring it out all the time, and
Right.
it can be pretty scary, to be honest, to really do it. Kind of like knock your head on the wall until something happens, you know. But
Yes.
you know, this time we don't have to do that because we have pro staff or other national representatives who are there. They've been in our position before. Maybe even they've even helped create the actual process of it too sometimes, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
just to be able to get into contact with them, it just shows that one, we're getting a lot of clarity. We're able to do our jobs and our roles a lot more effectively, and we're also able to get to impact the people that we want to impact in a more positive manner.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think about how even students, right? Because people think, oh, committees, that's got to be this big commitment, or I have to, I don't know, be super something. But our students bring enough skill to be super valuable to the staff. And so you are such a great resource, such that the staff doesn't have to go out and hire all of those individuals that help out, for example, during convention or during NELA or some of these events that we put on. So it's a great way, even for staff, to get things done for less money and engaging our leaders and teaching them the work that we have to do. Well, I think we've come to the end of why committees matter and they're so important to us. So if y'all want to stay tuned and just keep hanging out with us, hearing more about how the board works and why we're here, and how we are making the organization better with some of the changes that are coming. So thank you very much for joining. We will see you next time. All right.